It's amazing watching the religious play make-believe. It's really all they can do, but honestly, they don't have to be quite so blatant about it. Today, we look at a theist who wants to tell atheists the kind of questions that we should be asking, yet he refuses to ask any of those same questions about his own beliefs. Yes, it is as stupid as it sounds, so let's get to it. So, there's a video over on Armored Apologetics, part of a larger interview, where Dr. Michael Heiser tries to insult atheists by saying that we do all of the things that he's very clearly doing himself. Of course, when he does it, it's fine because, feelings. It really is patently absurd. It's why the video is currently at 7 upvotes and 41 downvotes. And Armored Apologetics is making excuses for why everyone thinks the whole thing is absolutely idiotic. Yeah, sure, pal. Whatever you say.
Mm-hmm. Well, for the unbeliever, the person who's not a Christian, what I tend to do, with people like this is say, okay, here's what I need from you for you to win the argument, for me to join your side.
What makes you think that I care if you join my side? That's a really common claim, and it's absolutely irrelevant. I don't have a side. That's a total misunderstanding of atheism, which I guess is no surprise. As I've pointed out before, atheists are not religious. Atheism is not a religion. We are not being just like you. In fact, we are nothing like you at all. We don't have a faith-based position like you do. We're not saying that our beliefs are right, therefore your beliefs are wrong. That's a wholly religious position. We are saying that your beliefs have not been proven to be right, therefore we reject them rationally until they have been. We don't have a positive position. The only position we have is that you haven't proven yours. But you can't fight against that, can you? It's why you pretend that we have faith.
I need you to show me how it's, this is all big picture thinking, how it's philosophically and intellectually coherent to argue that reality is best understood without a God than with one.
Because there is no evidence at all that there are any gods. And you notice the false dichotomy there, right? His choices are a God, specifically his God, or no gods at all. No other options will even be considered. He's already staked out his claim, and now he's desperately trying to get to his preconceived belief, rather than simply addressing the demonstrable evidence and going where it leads, and nowhere else. This is why the religious have so many problems, and why they simply cannot understand what skeptics are saying to them.
So I want you to explain that. I want you to explain why people, and I know so many of these, but why people who have advanced degrees in the hard sciences and in philosophy, why they don't find your criticisms at all persuasive.
Because they're not being rational. The fact still remains that 93% of the National Academy of Sciences are atheists. Very, very, very few scientists working in the hard sciences are religious. That's a simple fact. Now, there are plenty who are philosophers or who are in the soft sciences who are. There are some that are classically trained in the hard sciences, yet who gave it up to pursue apologetics. People like Henry Morris and Duane Gish come to mind. These are people who generally never did anything useful with their scientific training, then they threw it all away and just started preaching. I know this is hard for the religious to believe, but just because you have a degree, that doesn't mean that you're automatically using your brain. That's the argument from authority fallacy. What piece of paper you have, or what letters you can stamp after your name, those don't really matter. It's what you do with the scientific methodology that does.
In other words, how does that work? And what you usually get is, well, they're all like lying. They really have doubts, or they're just not as smart, or they're filtering stuff out. No, excuse me, but they went to the same schools, they publish in the same journals, they're members in the same academic societies, they're department heads and professors at the major PhD granting institutions in the world, and they just don't find this persuasive.
Which doesn't change anything. I'm sure there are scientists out there that believe in Bigfoot too. So what? So long as it doesn't interfere with their scientific work, their other beliefs are irrelevant. People have an amazing ability to compartmentalize. You can look at, say, Francis Collins, former head of the Human Genome Project and current director of the National Institutes of Health. He is a fundamentalist Christian. He's also a credible scientist because he keeps his religion out of his science, and unfortunately, his science out of his religion. He might go preach on Sunday morning or whatever he does, but the rest of the week, he's being useful. His religious beliefs do not impinge on his scientific credibility. That's the difference between Collins and someone like Henry Morris, who had a degree in hydrodynamics, or Duane Gish, who had a degree in biochemistry, and then both of them went full religious retard and started preaching full time, often talking about things that were in complete contradiction to everything they learned in college. It isn't what degrees you have, it's how you use it.
And for you to say that, where's the empirical research that supports that they're deceived or lying? I'd like to see that.
Nobody says that they're lying. I'm sure they legitimately believe what they're saying. They just can't defend any of it rationally. And that's the problem. They do not apply their scientific rigor to their religious beliefs as they do with everything else. They have a double standard. The scientific method for those things over there, and religious adherence for those things over here. Never do the two sides meet. You don't find anyone doing scientific experiments for the existence of God. All you see are bald rationalizations for why their emotionally held beliefs, well, they must be true because it makes them feel good.
Now, again, that's challenging, but I try to give people homework, essentially. I do this at UFO conferences. I do this, when I'm lecturing on Zeitgeist or something like that. I mean, I do it everywhere.
So, you're not just a religious loony, you're just a lunatic all around. All right, yes, he has criticized ancient alien proponents, but he's only done so from the perspective of his own religious beliefs. It's never been scientifically, it's always based on faith. It's, here's what the Bible has to say. It's never, here's objective scientific observations upon which I'm basing my conclusions. Where have you ever been demonstrably useful, Doc? I just don't see it.
Here's what I need from you for me to be persuaded to join you. So I don't want to dismiss their criticisms and concerns.
But you do. Our criticisms and concerns are largely about your methodology and the reasons that you hold your beliefs in the first place. You are unwilling to change any of that. You are unwilling to limit yourself to evidence and rational thought in coming to conclusions. If you did that, then people wouldn't criticize you. Of course, you also wouldn't come to the conclusions that you do either. We're not criticizing your beliefs, we're criticizing the methods that you use to get to them. You really need to do better.
But at the end of the day, I need answers. I need coherent answers to questions like these.
Yet you have none of your own. It's really funny how that works, isn't it? You insist that people have what you consider credible evidence to support a non-God-based world, yet you have absolutely no credible evidence whatsoever to support your own blind faith.
Mm-hmm.
So go work on that.
Sure, when do you think you're going to get around to that? Because not only do you have no idea what atheism is, you're being a complete hypocrite. But this is typical for the religious because they often think that they have the default position and therefore they have nothing to prove. And they're just wrong. Instead, we start off with the position that what we see around us is a pretty good starting point. It may not be the whole truth, but if we can all objectively experience the same things, then it's a pretty safe bet to surmise that it must be real, at least for the sake of argument. Then we start seeing where this agreed upon evidence leads us. We do this without regard for emotion or wishful thinking or anything non-demonstrable. Faith is not part of this equation. Then we see what the most likely answers are, and in the event that there are no good answers evident, we simply admit that we do not, at the moment, have a solution, and we move on looking for additional evidence. At no time are we ever allowed to just make something up because it makes us comfortable. This is evidence and only evidence. This is also not what the religious do. They don't even make an attempt. They start with a bald assertion based on feelings, and then they go from there. They've got nothing else. They want a certain answer to be true, therefore that answer must be true. All detractors now have to disprove their favorite answer instead of them having to support it. Is it any wonder why these people are such ludicrous laughingstocks?
Okay, we can have a conversation later. I want to know, just show me.
Yeah, just show us. What are you waiting for? The absolute hypocrisy on display here is just astounding. You want us to show where you're wrong, but you refuse to show anyone else that you're right. We've been asking about this forever, and you people have no answers. You just have bald assertions. This is just ridiculous.
That's not an unreasonable request.
No, it's not. So why can't you do it? Why is it the religious who are running around with the goalposts refusing to present evidence for their own claims and insisting that they're automatically right until someone proves them wrong? It's like debating with a 6-year-old. This is listening to a kid screaming, "I know you are, but what am I?" These are not mature adults.
I want data. I don't want your anger. Your anger doesn't solve my problem. My problem is I want answers to these questions.
And sometimes that's just too bad. You don't have an answer. You don't get to just make one up. You have to be satisfied, at least temporarily, with, "I don't know," at least until you can find something better. Only overly emotional children insist on things that aren't real. But I guess that explains a lot, doesn't it?
I understand if you're angry. Chances are, I've told people who are atheists or whatever, if I had the caricature of God in my head that you have in yours, I'd already be
upset. Yeah.
Except what we have isn't a caricature. It's what you people are saying. We're just taking the attributes that you arbitrarily assign to your imaginary friend, and we're looking at whether those characteristics make any sense at all. And unfortunately for you, they don't. We're not angry. We're laughing. Please learn to tell the difference.
I'd already be on your side, but you've really misunderstood, this or that point of theology. You really do have a caricature living in your head.
No, you do. That's why we keep asking you to justify any of these absurd claims that you come up with, and you can't do it. You get offended that we dare ask. You're the ones getting mad, not us. You don't see atheists out murdering the religious in the name of atheism. You do see the religious doing that, though, and then they look at us and say, "Hey, why so mad, bro?" It's because you people are assholes. That's why. You are screwing up society for the rest of us, and then you act like we're the ones that are being irrational. You people have problems. Do something about it.
You've had personal pain, and you're not correctly parsing why there's evil in the world.
No, we just don't agree with you. You're demonstrably wrong, or at the very least, not demonstrably right, yet you cling to your beliefs because facts just don't matter, only feelings do. We're not the opposition. We represent the truth, and you represent delusion. You want these things to be so, but you have absolutely nothing other than your wishful thinking to defend it. This is exactly why the religious never talk to the non-religious. They talk about us a lot, but they don't talk to us. They just make themselves look foolish. These claims only fly when your audience hasn't got a clue either. Maybe someone should figure that out. I mean, at least try.
And you may have gotten an answer from a Christian that really hurts you and damages you.
Nope. Anything that we get from Christians is bad comedy. It isn't real, at least not demonstrably so. We keep asking for you to do better, but you never do. You don't seem capable. Why is this such a problem for you people?
And you have every right to do that because it's not a good answer.
Yes, what you believe is not a good answer, but you're so deluded and reliant on your feelings that you refuse to acknowledge it. We have the same problem with you that you claim to have with us. Maybe you've spent too much time staring in the mirror.
So I agree with you, but you need to take a deep breath and say, well, maybe there's a different way to parse all this.
Good advice. Why won't you take it? All right, that's because you don't care. That's obvious. It's why you're the one pointing at us and pretending we're doing what you're very clearly doing, and nothing else anyone says will change your mind. We're not the ones being emotional. That's you. You have nothing to present, and you expect us to do all of the work. Sorry, that's not how rational people operate. Your claims, you prove them. Get your ass in gear.
And I'm telling you there is, but so if you want to have a conversation, I'd love to have that conversation with you.
And it just ends right there abruptly. Sure, I'll have a conversation, but I bet you'll be the one to run away. You love to talk about atheists, but you really aren't interested in talking to atheists. Because if you did, we'd wipe the walls with you. We're not going to let you wander around wearing your delusions on your sleeves, thinking that you've got the default position and everyone else is automatically wrong until they prove you are. We're going to expect you to be able to back up your faith, and we all know you simply can't do that. You've got all kinds of excuses for why you can't do that, but I'm not interested in your bald rationalizations. If you have no evidence to support your claims, and I'm talking objective, demonstrable evidence, then you have no good reason to believe them to be valid in the first place. It doesn't matter how your beliefs make you feel. It matters how much evidence you can present to demonstrate that what you believe is actually true. And so far, you haven't done a damn thing. Get to work.
Boom, dicky bum, 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 dicky bum.